Now from the president of the Minneapolis Federal Reserve Bank, Neel Kashkari, and Lizanne Sonders, chief investment strategist for Charles Schwab. And Lizanne, let me begin with you because I think a lot of people have been puzzled seeing this tremendous rise off the bottoms in the stock market over the last 3 weeks, even as we've seen these absolutely record-breaking unemployment numbers. Can you explain this great disconnect to the American people?
Probably not fully. Everything that's been happening both in the economy, given that it was a government shutdown by fiat effectively in order to try to stem the economic impact. Also, the warp speed with which we saw the stimulus kick in, both by the Fed and Congress. We moved into bear market territory at a record-breaking pace. I think at the lows, when the market was down about 35%, you could argue it was pricing in the type of economic carnage that we are seeing right now. I think the rally since that low, the speed with which we've retraced about 60% of that move down, reflects a couple of things. One, the stimulus, which combined represents more than a quarter of GDP. And two, I think is on the assumption that the market is looking through sort of the valley and that maybe April will be the worst month, the inflection point. I think there's some risks associated with that. You've got the potential second wave of the virus. You've got the second order effects associated with the economy. So I think the speed that the market has rebounded does now present some risks. But I think everything is happening in a much more condensed time frame than anything we've seen in history.
No question about that. And Neel Kashkari, we see the market pricing in that relatively rapid, sustained recovery. You just heard Larry Kudlow saying he expects a very strong second half of the year and a roaring 2021. Is that realistic?
You know, I wish it were, but what I've learned in the last few months, unfortunately, this is more likely to be a slow, more gradual recovery. Unfortunately, the virus continues to spread. People continue to get it. Unfortunately, people are tragically dying. And when we look around the world, there's evidence that when countries relax their economic controls, the virus tends to flare back up again. And the longer this goes on, unfortunately, the more gradual the recovery is likely to be. If we see a lot of small businesses going through bankruptcy, where you're going to have empty strip malls for a while until new businesses form, the recovery ends up taking a lot longer. So I would love to see a robust recovery, but that would require a breakthrough in vaccines, a breakthrough in widespread testing, a breakthrough in therapies to give all of us confidence that it's safe to go back. I don't know when we're going to have that confidence, and ultimately the American people are going to decide how long the shutdown is.
Right, and we're going to be talking about that later in the program with some top pharmaceutical executives. But in the meantime, we've seen this extraordinary response from the Fed and the federal government right now. You heard Larry Kudlow say it could add up to about $9 trillion. What more should you, as a Fed governor, what more are you recommending the Fed do right now? And will we need another congressional package?
Well, the Fed is standing behind the financial system. Clearly, we are going to put whatever we need to do to make sure the financial system continues to run. But this is first and foremost a healthcare crisis. And so anything Congress can do to support more investment in any of those technology breakthroughs will be money well spent. And number two, if this goes on for a long period of time, I think it's going to go on in some phases for a year or two. I think Congress is going to need to continue to give assistance to workers who've lost their jobs. I mean, as you said, it's really around 24% of people right now who are out of work today. And if this is a gradual recovery, the way I think it's going to be, those folks are going to need more help.
And Lizanne, what advice are you giving to all of your customers right now about how to think about this market and this economy?
Again, we're reminding them that the speed with which the bear market unfolded, the rally that has happened since then, the compression in the economy is unlike we've ever seen. But you really can apply the same kind of logical thinking and disciplines around investing that can apply even in this short-term environment, which is hopefully you had a plan, you weren't winging it. Diversification across asset classes, make sure you have some sort of anchors to windward associated with less risky investments, and then use the ability and benefits of rebalancing. So trimming into strength and adding into weakness, sort of just staying on the right side of the, for lack of a better word, the trade. And it's really those tried and true disciplines that are the closest thing to a free lunch. Too many investors think the only path to success requires top picking and bottom ticking, all in, all out. And that's just gambling on a moment in time. And investing should always be a process over time, even when what's happening is in a more condensed frame of time. And that's the best advice we can give in this environment.
And finally, Neel Kashkari, you have access to the best economic information in the world. What should everyone be expecting over the next several months as we wait for effective treatments, as we wait for vaccines? Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin this morning is saying that unemployment could go as high as 25%.
Yeah, and the worst is yet to come on the job front, unfortunately. And then it really is going to be, as these states start to reopen and as businesses start to reopen, obviously we need them to reopen safely, and we need to monitor and look for signs of things flaring back up again. We may be in an environment of gradual relaxing and then having to clamp back down again around the country as the virus continues to spread. To solve the economy, we must solve the virus. Let's never lose sight of that fact.
Neel Kashkari, Sonders, thanks very much.